Okay. Welcome, everybody. I am Debbie Budlander. I'm Deputy Chair of the UCT Council, and I'm co-chairing this with Zetu Albani, who is the Deputy Speaker of the Student Parliament. Okay, we've got quite a lot on the program, so we're going to start right. Okay, we've got quite a lot on the program, and the first thing that we're going to have is just a very short welcome by the Vice Chancellor, Dr. Max Price.
Thank you. This is an important occasion. It was prompted by the SRC members who are sitting on Senate. At a Senate meeting last week, it was proposed that we should have a student assembly. And it was proposed that we needed to have it urgently because soon students will be going off on study break and exams, and then it'll be too late in this year to have a discussion and to come together around this. And that's why we're having it now and why we're having it at short notice. As you know, the Fees Commission is likely to release, or the President is likely to release the report. We'd been calling for that. We're very pleased. We don't know if he did it because of us, but we made the call last week, and he then announced on the weekend that it will be released. We're hoping that that will come out, and that'll be an opportunity to engage with the policies, but we want to make clear some of our positions now because we may not be around on campus when the actual report is released, and no doubt that will continue. So the first thing is that this is a message to government about the urgency of this situation. We have a feeling that this is now the third year that the fees issue has not been resolved, the third year that there have been protests and strikes and activism because of the lack of clarity on government policy on funding higher education, and because the fees have become unaffordable for many people, and people are dropping out of university or not even coming because they can't afford the fees. And we are worried that the delays in issuing the report suggest that the government doesn't think this is as urgent as we do, and this is a message that we keep it on the front burner, it doesn't go on the back burner. This is an urgent issue. We want the government within the next few weeks, when it comes to looking at the report, to develop a roadmap that will tell us how are we going to get to affordable education for all. Second message is a message about unity, in the sense that we share a common cause here. We share an interest in high quality education, and education that is accessible, that is affordable, ideally education that is free. That is what we all share, and we want, and we all recognize, I think, that the government funding for higher education has been in decline to the universities over a number of years, and that's partly why the fees have been going up above inflation. But we do not disagree between students and university management and executive and faculty on that issue. The issue lies with government, and we need to turn it to the doors of government and not let this issue become an issue which divides us on the campus when it shouldn't. And so the point of an assembly like this is to send a signal that the goal of affordable higher education, high quality, is one that we all share, and most of the responsibility for that lies with government policy. Thirdly, I want to indicate that the university at this point does not have a position on how to fund higher education. I did make a submission a year and a half ago to the Fees Commission, and that is in the public domain. And as you'll see if you go onto the website and you can see all the submissions, I indicate that it's a submission which reflects the views of the university executive, or at any rate, the university executive that was in place about a year and a half ago. You'll realize, of course, that the deputy vice chancellors, none of the deputy vice chancellors who were with me a year ago are still currently there. So the position is not necessarily the position of the current deputy vice chancellors, but it was a position of the executive a year ago. It is not, however, necessarily a position of the whole university. And that's the third reason why we're having an assembly like this. It is to air many views and to have those views come forth and to see if we can create some convergence, probably not at this meeting, but at least to ensure that people know they have a voice, we're here, we're listening, and we are going to take all the views seriously. And that brings me to the last point, which is that we have not been doing nothing over the year. Here at UCT, we have established something called the Free Education Planning Group, a student-led research team that has been working on looking at options for funding. How do we achieve free education? Can it be achieved? What time frame would be required? How does one fund it if people are not paying fees? And you're going to hear presentations today from the FEPG, the Free Education Planning Group. So it's a message that we are active, but that group wants more participation. They feel like there's been too much apathy, too much people just not engaging with the work of that group. And we want this, through this assembly, to inform you about that group and that work, and to urge you to be much more involved in that. The final thing I'm saying just before sitting down is about the sort of awkwardness of this date, which is the 1st of November, and that is that this meeting was meant to happen yesterday. It was planned on the Senate meeting on Friday. It would have been the 31st, and the significance of that is that it was planned and is still being organized by the outgoing SRC. But just to make a point that there is a new SRC in office from today, and I welcome them in office, but that even though there is a new SRC, the old SRC has taken responsibility for this meeting for logical reasons. So thank you all. Welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Price. Dr. Price mentioned the Free Education Planning Group, and I'm going to call on Mlingani Matiwane to come and present 10 minutes, because they are one of the co-chairs of the Free Education Planning Group, and I hope they will give you a sense of what has been done so far, and that another round of research is about to begin.
I'd like to greet my old friends from ENCA who said Biko is burning last year this time. But alas, Israel too, Africa, Israel too, Ingululego. Okay, hello friends, I'm going to read this verbatim because I do speak for very long. So I timed this such that it will satiate Debbie's recommendations. Okay, hello friends, I'm Mlingani Matiwane, the director of the Free Education Research Unit and the co-chair of the Free Education Planning Group. The Free Education Planning Group is pleased to deliver a presentation on topics posed by the University Assembly planners regarding free education.
You should go a little bit slower, even if it takes 12.
You can watch the recording on 0.5 speed if I'm speaking fast. The Free Education Planning Group is pleased to deliver a presentation on the topics posed by the University Assembly planners regarding free education primarily and implicitly financial exclusion in the matter of fee increments. Contact details will be attached in the email for you to execute what Dr. Max Price proposed, which is joining the planning group. Okay. Now, at the end of last year, a resolution was passed stating the following, and I'm not going to read all of it, but nonetheless, you'll follow me. A coherent policy, this is bullet 3 of the 2016 agreement, 7th November, blah, blah, blah. First point, supporting for investigating the principle and implementation possibilities of free higher education. Ellipses, the executive has expressed in principle support for the ideal of free higher education while recognizing that the details ellipses need investigation. 2, a commitment to further dialogue and action to examine the possibility and implications of free higher education. An initiative along these lines, starting the School of Economics, is starting and includes a representative nominated by Ellipses. All parties and individuals are interested in participating in this program will immediately be invited to do so. This offer still stands, of course, and is encouraged. The university will also support, here we are, a formal ongoing research program into the economic policy framework for higher education. The university will find resources to establish a dedicated unit to function, including engaging in debates and lobbying at a national level. It will ensure that its influence ellipses. Third point, the UCT Executive and Council will work with the leadership of all universities and student formations to engage government to fund appropriately the higher education sector ellipses. The executive will further make clear that the submission made to the Fees Commission represented the position of the UCT executive and that there are many other positions on fees at the university, which need to be acknowledged. Then goes on Roman numeral 4 and 5. Number 6, a commitment to bringing the university community into conversation about these issues, listening deeply, accepting that there is a problem that needs addressing by us all. This assembly should bring us closer to actualizing this portion, and I hope in future crisis will not be the motivating factor for us to reach this point. But nonetheless, let's start. The Free Education Planning Group was constituted like last semester, very early on, and will be formally, and the Free Education Research Unit will be formally constituted this week, Friday, during the induction process for incoming researchers at the end of our selection process. Okay. Thus, the dream is materializing, not without any bureaucratic filibustering, but I mean, alas, we have reached our final destination. What have we done? Round 1. Now, I'm going to bash you with some hectic numbers, and you must just follow now. Okay, sure. We've determined that there has been, between 2007 and 2012, increased total fees in real terms by 8.4% per annum across African universities. NSFAS, the financial aid scheme tasked with making higher education accessible to all, was hopelessly underfunded. 31% of eligible students were rejected in 2014 to this end. And the eligibility cut of 122,000 household income left a large portion of students without a plan on how to go about the paying of fees, leading to exclusions, etc. Of the 1 million pupils who start grade 1, only 40% matriculate. The proportion of white students who matriculate is nearly double that of black students and is decisively determined by exclusive access to good quality schools. Thus far, poor people are severely underrepresented at university, while nearly 70% of the population has a household income below NSFAS threshold. Only 25% of students enrolled in university come from these households. University enrollments increased by 6% per annum between 2007 and 2012, while the government's contribution, block earmarked and NSFAS, grew in real terms by only 5.4% per year. Third stream funding income fell bar, whatever, yeah. There's multiple ways in which the university pays for its expenses, and that also has more or less stagnated. Okay, thus, eliminating financial exclusion is an important aspect of changing university spaces into public centers of knowledge. We focus on funding aspects in this review. I'm still speaking about round 1, comparing 6 sources. Government can fulfill free education by raising the corporate and highest personal income tax by 2% or reallocating funds from defense and other miscellaneous expenditure, which we don't really know why. Nonetheless, funding would be a transfer from the privileged groups, and hence free education then becomes a mechanism by which to redistribute wealth in a more realistic short-term way until such time that we get more aggressive in the future. So, community service has the potential to take the center as a possible way in which this may happen as well. As graduates serve marginalized communities and help break structural inequalities. Case studies around Mexico and as far as Nigeria, but the benefits are mainly social and reconstructive in nature. The economy thus reconstructs itself around labor versus redirection of actual numerical, like money or monetary terms. Okay, so, but then again, there's a lot, okay, wow, okay, sure. Corporate contributions to higher education may also improve the funding crisis, but carry a risk of further privatization, commodification, and unreliability. Of course, this is more or less reasonable, most important now, because as City Press has told us, the banks of South Africa have kind of commented on this quite excessively, saying that they will not give money to the state until such time that the state brings them a funding proposal that makes sense. And that's kind of how capitalism works. So, other funding schemes improve access, but carry over many of the shortcomings, such as commodification, debt, and black tax. Fees could be reconstructed so that households around the 300 rand, or 300,000 income progressively fund the system. Though this relies on the continued overrepresentation of wealthy households in universities. Set at appropriate levels, a graduate tax could also be a method by which this can happen for the high private returns that each graduate gets are extensively larger than other distributed peoples within the employment specimen. Okay, so there is consensus that financial exclusion must urgently be eliminated in higher education. Universities have a responsibility to forge a different path that reimagines the role of higher education in our social structure. More broadly, Fees Must Fall aims to confront the deeper constraints arising from powerful constituencies outside of the university system and that hold dispossessed the masses of our country. Education in the economy and society. The long-term unemployment rate for degree holders is only 4%, significantly lower than the individuals from grade 8 to grade 11, sitting at 31%, or matric sitting at 26%. Amongst the employed, a degree holder earns about triple that what someone who has only completed grade 9 earns, controlling for race, gender, and all the other controlled variables. Okay. So thus, gaining access to higher education has strong implications for your economic agency and ability to lead a financially secure, decent life. It remains unclear whether higher wage earners really are more productive than unskilled workers. Higher education may simply aid an elite in reproducing class, status, and opportunity hoarding. Despite the inequality and the fact that the majority of the labor force are unskilled, economic growth in South Africa favors high-skilled jobs. There are public economic benefits for higher education, increasing the productivity of the labor force, increased innovation, and all the nice things that happen at university. However, understanding education purely in terms of economic benefit reinforces the neoliberal paradigm. The contribution of people who do valuable work every day but are not rewarded in monetary terms, such as housemakers looking after children, are overlooked. Social, cultural, and psychological benefits to education, such as post-colonial theory or African theory, are also excluded. South Africa spent around 0.7% of GDP on higher education in South Africa in 2015, compared to its similar counterparts, Cuba, which spent 4.5%, Malaysia 1.8%, 1.4% in Ghana, 1.2% in India, and 1% in Brazil. Now, fortunately for us, again, City Press has revealed some interesting stuff, saying that they are also planning to spend around 1%, but that's just the start, of course, because we're quite behind the other nations in this regard. But anyways. Okay, funding free education, a corporate tax. 19% is currently the corporate tax of 2015 when we recorded it. Currently the tax is flat at 28%, down from 34.5% in 2012 and 50% in 1990. An increase to 30% would raise 13 billion rand per year, but may affect international competitiveness and FDI attraction. Income tax is currently at around 36%, well, not currently, in 2015 it was about 36%, and then, yeah, you increase that and you make around 4.4 billion, nonetheless. I'm just going to give you the final figures, it's fine, I can't do the calculations in front of you. And then there are other methods that we are currently not using at all, like a wealth tax, donations, capital gains, blah, 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 which we can also augment such that they can raise us somewhere between 2 to 4 billion rand as well. The skills development levy, which is one of the most nebulously used like taxes that everyone who is employed currently pays, could also be a method of gathering some funds. Also, the Fees Commission report, at least the leaked, correct, incorrect, we don't know yet, does speak about using some CETA money to this end. A new tax would also be proposed, which we put in our round one, an apartheid windfall tax would target companies that benefited from apartheid and could raise a once-off amount of 26 billion rand. Reprioritizing the budget, 171 billion rand is spent on defense, public order and safety. The similar thing that happens at UCT. A key debate is why this money should go to higher education rather than, for example, basic education or housing or health or any of the other things. Now, the position of round one is that we should do redistribution. Round two comes up with methods of creating the money which will fund higher education so that the money that's made goes directly to what it was made for to begin with. Now, you'll find that out when we do release round two. We're currently in the process of crunching the numbers and doing that kind of stuff. But nonetheless, round one kind of works with the data that currently exists and doesn't go into hypotheticals. Okay. Funding free education with full cost of study for all requires around 40 billion rand. Remember that number. It's what you're protesting for if you're protesting. It's 40 billion rand, right? We disagree with each other on the number. I'm actually team 32.5. Asana is team another figure. So the figure is not necessarily fixed, but you can work with a deviation about 10 billion on both sides, around 35 billion rand, and you should be more or less within the correct ballpark so far as numbers are concerned. Okay, then we have multiple other things that I think the university has kind of spoken about, which is the restructuring of fees, similar models to kind of what currently exists. So you make people who have more pay more, and then you make people who have less pay less, and then you make people who don't have money at all not pay. We kind of have a lot of worry, of course, with this model because it continues the means testing and all these other things and doesn't really solve what fees must fall is speaking about. But of course, it's research, so we must put it in the paper. It's there. So there we are. And then I was going to read the page 19 summary, but I'm not going to do that. Page 19 of the protesting policy document, read that page, and it's important. Then I'm going to close off by telling you about round 2, which I'm not going to speak a lot about it. Anticipation must make you read it. Okay. We begin by wanting to expand on round 1 with a greater emphasis on benchmarking higher education funding through international comparisons. We further go to add more models and reviewed the closest thing to a government response at the time, which was ISFAP, going to be now the Fees Commission report, and went on to attempt to deal more seriously with the question of whether it should be for the poor or for all, because we need to end that debate. We came out with 4 research questions, which you'll find out further on. 2 that I'll raise properly explicitly now is that we're probably going to change the review of ISFAP to a review of ISFAP and the Fees Commission report. So during December, we're going to spend the 3 weeks just literally responding to the Fees Commission report. During when you are having holiday, we'll be here studying the Fees Commission report and telling them if they are correct or incorrect and so on. And then the last one is that we deliberately call it models and not recommendations because the purpose of the planning group is not to dictate to you which of the models you must believe in. Nor will we rank them, nor will we tell you which one we prefer. We will simply put all the models out there, and then you will determine which one you want to rally behind, and you can be team community service or team graduate tax or team whatever, obviously informed by argumentation. And then lastly, what do we have in the pipeline? We intend on expanding the planning group to other universities and working rather seriously to have planning for free education, implementation, and advisory committees to the state for its sustainability built into the academy's responsibility to society through the same or similar units once the call has actually been achieved. We intend on implementing a very robust media and engagement strategy to meet all citizens wherever they may be and in whatever medium they prefer, be it through the arts, through IT and games, print media, and all other information intakes. Lastly, I would like to again remind people that you can be part of the planning group. Please email either myself, it will be in the thing that will come after this, CMD will make sure. Yeah, please just do that. And also we need a lot of volunteers. So if you are keen on this thing and you're serious, please come to the School of Economics and we will work very well together. A good day to you all.
Thank you so much, Mlingani. I'm now going to open the floor, right, for discussion. I'm very worried that this discussion has taken 3 years to happen and the university is only now asking for our voices. But it's okay, we will be heard nonetheless. So the floor, there's 5 mics that are here. Mic 1 will be by Uzukiswa. So Uzukiswa will man that mic. She's over there. Mic 2 will be mic'd by Dylan. Dylan, where are you? Mic 2 over there. Mic 3 by Unkanyiso. Over there. Mic 4 will be Rodney, over there, and mic 5. So in that order, I will recognize you, and then we can continue the conversation. So the conversation is about whether UCT supports free education. I mean, Max Price has already opened saying that he supports free education for all, so I don't know why this is still a discussion, but we will have the discussion nonetheless. I mean, in principle, yes. So I'm going to now recognize 5 hands, and in that order, we will stand up. And so, mic 1, mic 2. Can you please move to that mic as I give you mic 1, mic 2? No, only 1. Leader. Okay. Wait. Yes. Can I please get? I can't. Okay. Mic 1. Can you move to mic 1? Mic 1 right here. Move to mic 1. Mic 2. Sorry, I'm recognizing you first. So you're going to be the first one. So you can speak from there. Mic 1, mic 2, mic 3. All right. Sorry, can you all hear me now? Yes. Mic 1, mic 2. So can I ask that, can you please move to mic 2? Either one of you, can you please move to mic 2? Okay, you can actually both be there. It's fine. You can share the mic. Mic 2. Can I have a second speaker? Mic 2 is over there, babes, by Dylan. Yes. Mic 3 is by Ukanyiso over there.
Someone in black there who had raised their hand.
I can't see. People of mic, can you please also help me in recognizing people? I can't see that far. Yes, okay. Gift, can you please give someone a mic if there's someone who'd like to speak? All right. I'm going to start with, yes, can you start? Yes, you can speak.
Can everyone hear me? Okay, great.
Please move close.
Can everyone hear? Okay, so I'm not going to speak just yet, Zetu. This is just the point of order. It's a point of order. The point of order is that we are not here for management. Management is here for us. So, and to clarify, my name is Angela Trotta, and I'm not part of any organization. Okay. What I'm here to speak about is that if Max Price can speak, we want Professor Lwazi Lushaba to speak. Let Lwazi speak. Let Lwazi speak. Let Lwazi speak. Let Lwazi speak.
Order, okay.
Let Lwazi speak.
All right. Gauging from the house, we're going to let Dr. Lushaba please come up and speak.
Is he going to speak before
You
me?
may speak from the floor, yes.
Is he going to speak before me?
No, the students have spoken and the students' voices will be heard. Thank you.
Amandla! Amandla! Forward with fees must fall forward. Phambili ngedabi labasebenzi phambili. Phambili ngedabi labantu abamnyama phambili. I thank you very much. Comrades, fellow black people, I bring to you this afternoon a message from the people of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, from where I have just returned. The people of Venezuela gave me this message to pass it on to you. They said they have heard of your struggles. They said they have heard of the selfless struggles of black people in South Africa to realize the dream of free education. And they said they stand with you in that struggle. And they said I must insist in telling you that their struggle in Venezuela, their first attempt to defeat white settlers in Venezuela, started on the 4th of February in 1992. They did not win in February 1992 until Chavez was elected in 1999. So they said the struggle is sure to be long and hard. But they said you must dare not fail, because your failure would be their failure also. So comrades, we cannot finish here, because if we fail, we would have failed the black and the indigenous people of Venezuela. they said I must bring this message to you. But we must address precisely the problem that brings us here, which is the problem of free education in South Africa. The first thing we must do is to say that the problem of free education in South Africa is a problem for black people. It's not a problem for white people. White people have no problem with free education. They can afford to pay. So we must, as we struggle, be clear in the struggle and say that this struggle is not for poor people. This struggle is for black people. You know who's poor in South Africa? It's black people. So why do you insist on calling them the poor? It is because you want to hide the fact that they were made poor as a result of their race. They did not become poor because they did not work hard, as white people are given to tell us. They tell us that we don't work hard enough. We are not determined. So we must remind them that as good students of history, we know that in this country there is a deliberate process that extends over 300 years to advantage people who are white and disadvantage people who are black. And so the reason why the problem of free education is a problem of black people is simply because of that history. So until we face that history, that constructed structure of white settler modernity in South Africa, we will not be able to deal with the problem at hand. The task here is to deconstruct the task. We will not be scared. The task here is to defeat a certain structure of white settler modernity in South Africa, which says that if you are white, you are advantaged in every respect. And if you are black, you are disadvantaged in every respect. So when you come to this university, white liberals tell you that we are all equal. We are not. There are people who come into this institution already laden with certain cultural capital that you lack as a black person. So when you get to the classroom, that cultural capital advantages them and disadvantages you as a black person. And so, the struggle for free education is not about money, because there is a tendency to reduce the problem into a problem of money. Because we may find a model to fund education. The problem with that is that you leave the value system of the education system intact. The problem with the education system is not just the problem of money or the problem of affordability. It is the kind of relationship that we are called to enter into as black people with this education. What is this relationship? It simply says that we are here to be prepared for the market. It simply says that the value of your being at UCT will be realizable after 4 years when you can take that certificate and go to the market and say, here I am, I'm better than the next person, hire me. What we want is an education system that is infused with different value systems. An education that enables people to actualize their potential and to actualize themselves. And so, the problem of education, as we've said, is not just the problem of money, it is the problem of the kinds of value system that it infuses in us, such that the value of our education becomes realizable only when we go to work. It does not enthuse us to resolve the problems of the country. Here is an important point that we must not miss. When the education says that you as an individual must benefit, what it does not tell you is that you need a society to exist first. Because you are not going to be able to realize the value of your education on your own. You need a functional society. And so if the education system does not enthuse us to go back to our communities and into our societies to resolve the problems of our societies, that education is valueless. But also, it means that if this education has been the same education system under apartheid, there will be something odd if you find people teaching precisely the same thing they taught under apartheid and in a democratic society. Now, this is what you find in this university. It is precisely what people taught prior to 1994 when they were perpetuating a settler colonial system. That's precisely what they continue to teach in an independent and free South Africa. It means that the values of our education, the ideological underpinnings of our education system have not changed. But they will not change. Because part of what has happened in this country is that the task of thinking has been made an exclusive preserve of white people. So to be an intellectual and to produce thought in this country, you need to be white first. Such that even when we are black and you happen to teach here, the expectation is that you must acculturate to the white culture and speak like them and do everything like them. So when I bring to the classroom as a black person modes of thought that are unknown to white people, that are reflective of the lives of black people, they say, that's not knowledge, that's not objective, that's not scientific. So what is scientific is what is synonymous with being white. What is objective is what is synonymous with being white. Every other thing, we live outside of science and outside of knowledge as black people. We cannot contribute anything to the production of knowledge. So it is not coincidental that the professoriate in this university remains white. It is not coincidental that 23 years after independence in this country, we have not produced a single black South African professor of political science. It is not accidental. It is by design that it is so. There is a structure that ensures that we are kept outside of the academy because, as I've said, the task of thinking in this country is made an exclusive preserve of white people. And so, in order to wage this struggle for free education, we must also insist that those who were beneficiaries of colonialism, those who are beneficiaries of apartheid, who occupy the positions they occupy precisely because of colonialism, must have the decency to listen to the oppressed. They will learn. Even if it's painful, but they will learn. And we shall pass our message. Except if you want to degenerate the meeting. I'm sure that's not your intention. So if your intention is not to degenerate the meeting, give us 5 more minutes, we'll be done. Bye. Now the problem we face as black people, not just in this university and this country, is a problem that Biko long ago recognized. White people provoke us, and then they want to tell us how to respond to the provocation. So we have no autonomy of thought. we are not able to determine our lives. They still have to govern our lives, even as we try to make our lives less colonial. It has to be in their own terms. Refusal is the first step towards regaining our humanity as black people. So, to return to the challenge of free decolonial education, we must restate the point that the kind of education we want is not that commoditizes us as individuals. Because the kind of education we give to you now, the first thing that comes to mind is, will it enable me to get employment? You do not say what would be my contribution to society and what kind of society we want to build. We simply say, how much would I be able to earn, or will I be employed? But we know who controls the market. You don't say, I want to change the market. I want to change the composition of the market or how material value is allocated in South Africa. No. You say, I also want to be allocated some value by those who allocate value. Who they are, I don't care. I will tell you who they are. They are white. So what do you do when you take your certificate to the market? You say to white people, here I am, I'm better than the black people in Khayelitsha. I've done better than people in Maspumelele. I've done better than people in all the other slums where black Koala lives. So employ me. Because simply I've managed to go to a white racist institution called UCT and I've survived. So, we must find an education system that rehumanizes us as black people. We must find an education system that enables us to interact with ourselves and our communities much better. But because I do not want to disrupt the meeting, I am going to end the exposition here so that the intentions of the meeting are not disrupted. We must still, at the end, get the end result of the meeting. But that's fine. So, comrades, let us remain disciplined so that we will achieve our goals. Let us remain disciplined so that we can achieve our goals. But we must tell the white people here who are threatening to walk away, we must tell them that a time will come. A time will come, it's not too far off, when we as black people would have regained our sense of integrity and self-regard, that would be able to run this country without depending on them. That a time will come when we are going to run these universities on our own and give them a different value system where we are not at the whims of white sentiments. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lushaba. So now I apologize for the people whose hands that I noted earlier. We're going to take a new round of hands. Also, I'm not going to apologize for what Dr. Lushaba has done. Students have spoken. We will be heard. All right, so I'm going to start again with recognizing people. Mic 1, mic 2, mic 3, mic 4, and mic 5. So, can I start with recognizing mic 1, mic 2, mic 3, mic 4, a fifth speaker, and mic 5, Alex. In that order, can we go to another mic?
Amandla. Gawethu. Since we have been asked for engagement and contributions, igama. Yay. Yay. Linksisipho gama. This is my contribution to the discussion. We have come to die, come to be killed, come to be murdered here. Yet we resist. This is why we resist. There are attempts to humiliate, negate, erase, reject, reduce us are what drive us to continue fighting. We refuse to accept their humiliation. We exclude their exclusion. Our lives, our existence, the entirety of our being continues to be under attack. The University of Cape Town has normalized the deaths of black students to the extent that any attempt to speak out against it is met with the silencing tactics, and the unceasing discomfort is responded to with violence. When we are not faced with physical violence, we are facing indirect violence. The violence on black bodies manifests itself in many ways, namely through the institutional and social exclusion of blacks. The inherent racist culture and norms of our institution leave black students financially excluded. We then revolt, not because it is fashionable, but because we are gasping for air, trying to breathe. Our fight is an attempt at survival during a time when we are being suffocated, and those in power have no intention to change, yet they have the will to silence us. As the country's majority and the university's minority, we will not take exclusion without a fight. The institution denies us education through its exclusionary culture, while it's business as usual, according to Max Price. To us, it is not normal that black students are dying at the institution, which leaves us with the question, who is next? Our skin color suggests that we are. We call on all students across faculties, disciplines, to join us in opposition against powers which seek our exclusion at this institution under the guise of some academic freedom. Academic freedom cannot come at the expense of the lives of black students. Academic freedom cannot be allowed to be an instrument for coded racism and justification for the exclusion of black students. And in so, we demand the following. We demand that the institute, or in actual fact, the country, the president, declares free decolonized education for all. And we are saying we must begin then in principle with a 0% fee increment at the University of Cape Town. We are saying that there must be no student that must be barred from continuing with the academic program due to outstanding fees in 2018 and in future. We are saying then provide a blanket DP for all students in the year of 2017 because of the disturbances on campus. And then we must find a way of dealing with problematic lectures. So we must draft a code of conduct which will speak to the behaviors and conduct of all university staff. And we are saying all faculties must move to have supplementary exams, deferred exams, and supplementaries for the deferreds. And to create a conducive learning environment, we are saying demilitarize our campus. Do it now. How do you do that? I'll tell you how. You must start by terminating the current contract with the private security and commit to not bring such private security onto our campus in future. UCT must then move to publicly support students in engaging the National Prosecuting Authority to withdraw charges against student activists fighting against fees. And then you say we must deal with safety on campus because people are dying, people are being kidnapped. We are saying then provide and implement pragmatic and effective ways sorting out the issue of safety on our campus, please. We are saying then move to insource the cafeteria workers which are going to be retrenched. And we want a commission of inquiry into all the deaths of students over the past 5 years that relate to suicide, attempted suicide, and are still classified as pending cases. And then lastly, but definitely not least, you, Max Price, must make a commitment to make mental health a priority into the institution. Amanda! Go too! Thank you, comrades.
Thank you so much. Microphone number 2. Speaker number 2. Yes.
Okay, can everyone hear me? Okay, thank you so much, Slalo, although it was quite delayed. My name is Karabo Khachau. I am an incoming member of the SRC, and I rise.
Oh,
Thank you.
can we please respect every speaker? Karabo, please continue.
Thank you, now Slalo. Okay, I rise on behalf of majority of the SRC and particularly the Democratic Alliance Student Organization. And to say,
Can we please respect the speaker? Karabo, you can continue.
thank you, Slalo Kwakhona. What we're saying is that, first of all, we'd like to say thank you to this platform. I think many of like these are supposed to be, an order of just it being a case of happening all the time. We accept these and it's fine. But particularly we rise on the issue of free education, particularly because there's a debate on whether free education for all or free education for the poor is realistic. And the engagement is that in an ideal world, of course, we're all striving to ensuring that every individual within South Africa has access to education accordingly. But when we look at the current state of our economy and we look at the inherent inequalities within our economy, we say...
High discipline! Leader. High discipline! High discipline! High morale! Can we let the leader over there continue?
Thank you so much. Accordingly,
Can
as
we
we've
please
been quiet to
respect
listen to
every
everyone.
High discipline!
High moral.
High discipline!
High moral.
Leaders, can we please listen to everyone? Whether we agree or we disagree with their views, we need to allow everyone to have a space and allow them to speak.
Thank you so much. Accordingly,
you
democracy
continue,
says
Garabo?
the same. So we say that it is important for us to continue to engage in finding out the feasibility of free education, in prioritizing the poor because of the inherent inequalities within South Africa. We cannot continue to say outside pragmatic offers shoot towards straight education for the poor if it means there is no funding for that. And I'm going to hand over to...
No.
Leader, we asked for
Sorry,
the
no. Please, can you respect me as the chairperson and also respect the space? We have acknowledged Ukarabo to speak. Karabo has spoken. Can we hand over to the next speaker that I recognize? I did not recognize
Sure.
you, Christopher. Next speaker, thank you. Yes, thank you. You can't stand over here.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Amanda! Chairperson, thank you for recognizing me. We are here to express our views freely. We think on our minds as individuals and as collectives. I choose to speak from the podium because it is my right to express myself freely. Part of it is to move my body from where I am seated to stand in front of this august. Nobody must dictate as to how we should express ourselves. That being symbolical goes to the fact that the way we perceived as being received our views in this meeting also has to do with the parameters that are set for us. So I'm going to be brief and say the environment within which we discuss this important issue is important to ensure that it is not contaminated. In order not to contaminate the environment, we must allow the free expression of views and ideas in whichever way that everyone speaks here. We recognize the protesters and demonstrators, such as the students lying here, those who are carrying the placards, those who will be singing later on. They are all part of expressing our free will. They are all part of expressing our unity and determination to ensure that we have free education in South Africa, not tomorrow, not next year, as in like today. We may not agree as to how we should get there, but Twitter and media are here. What is the message that we want to read about as being the outcome of this meeting? I propose that we must all agree to work together to find workable solutions to get free and fair education. The state and the government that we voted for must play a role to make that realizable. The management of this university has a responsibility to create an environment that enables us to influence each other and one another, to canvass different views and weigh up different strategies so that we can, in unity, arrive at an agreeable position. Without that, we are going to have conflict, we are going to have a lot of animosity, and yet what we need is unity. So I plead for unity, tolerance, and respect of one another's views, because those of us who are determined to get free education for all, we will do it even if it takes our last drop of sweat and blood. We will do it even if it takes sacrificing everything that our parents, our grandparents, and everyone before us have. And I affirm what has been contributed by speakers before me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next speaker.
Okay, I don't know.
No, third, and then I recognized you, yes.
Amandla. Amandla. Awethu. Comrades, I speak to you now, not as the official SRC president, as my term in office has ended yesterday. I speak to you now as Sipati Chabalala, who is tired, who is hurt, and who is angry. Comrades, I'd like us in our, let me first by starting, I affirm the call for free education for all. I affirm the free education planning group's plans for redress, for retaking of certain percentages from certain sectors, from certain percentages of the government spending to fund free education. I moreover affirm that we should be taking a community service stance as we are citizens of this country, and it is our responsibility to enrich the whole country. I can't get this degree for myself to get money to put it in my wallet. I must get this degree to improve the greater South African community. After that being said and all the logic being put there, comrades, I rise on a point of pain. I rise on a point of, I'm so tired of the structure that is created at UCT. Comrades, the issue of financial exclusion does not only affect those students excluded, it affects those students who are trying to bring those students back. In my term in SRC, management handed us about 22 students and told us, we are going to evict them, their grace period is over, they must leave this institution because they have debt. Now, as an SRC president, a 20-year-old at that, I then go about and raise 1.8 million for those financially excluded students. We still are yet to get the final 200,000 to finish that, and management is yet to finalize any other payments because they want the 200,000. Now I question the logic in employing 20-year-olds to address the issue of financial exclusion. I am a student. I am to concentrate on my academics. I can't be plagued by the numbers and numbers of emails that come through my email saying, SRC President, I'm not allowed to register right now. I have 20,000 rand debt. I need this, I need that. It hurts, comrades. That even more so when we raise this conversation, management will then put the onus on us as students to figure out solutions for this. So even in this assembly, I'd like to move the House to make sure that management is to carry out whatever we mandate, and they are not to renege from this responsibility. Because I am tired of, when we then decide as students out of our own agency to carry on the struggle that management is ignoring, I'm tired of the threats. Yesterday, I was called into the office at 11 a.m. to be told that there will be criminal charges laid against me for the break-in at Sponsetter's exam room. That hurt me to my core. That I am now going to be victimized, I am now going to be created as a fees must fall god, I will be used as a, we're going to have another bring back our cadres or something like that, and that ignores the purpose of this call. Black students are the only one who can't afford to be at UCT. How are we then also the only ones supposed to foot this struggle specifically? How is it then that management is able to put the whole responsibility of taking care of people who are mentally ill, of taking care of people who cannot come back to this institution because they have debt? And then when we try, they then have the audacity to remove our voice, to give us criminal charges, and to take away our agency. I'm tired, comrades. I'm tired. I can't be doing this again. I don't want the next SRC president to have to do this again. Because whoever they are, they must know. They must know what they will be doing. They'll be sitting in an office all day listening to queries of, Sipati, I just need 60,000 rand so I can continue with my studies. I'm getting 80%. I just can't find funding. I'm from Kenya. There wasn't any funding available. That is the thing that we are agreeing to by letting free education remain a conversation that Max Price can determine. I am tired of the disingenuousness. I am tired of the bird. I can't believe even that they're claiming free education planning group because it is a bunch of students and they are tired. They did not equip us with the resources to finish the free planning education group. We are tired, comrades. I'm gonna stop here, comrades, but again, management, I am sick of you placing the onus of everything on us. I am sick of you then demilitarizing us and dehumanizing us when we try to do your job. I'm tired.
Okay, I firstly want to comment on the previous speakers' sayings, and mostly all of the speakers who said that only black people can. That's unfortunately not the truth. Me as an example.
Sorry. High discipline.
No, that only black people can't afford university, that all white people have money, that all white people can afford university. My mother, she is a single mom, she's a teacher. The only reason I am here is because of financial aid. A lot like black people. It is. Yes?
High discipline. High morale. Can we please respect every speaker? Every speaker deserves the same respect that we are giving Musipati, we are giving our comrades. Leader, can you please carry on? Thank you.
So we should not say all white people have money, because that is not the truth. Then I would also like to say, sorry, I don't know the name of the professor, but I want to comment on something the professor was saying. He was speaking that one day black people will be in charge. They will be in power. But if we look at the current state of the parliament right now,
High discipline. High morale.
if we look at the current state,
Hello.
Probably tell us that he's in support of the Black Monday protest. Just listen.
Do not say apartheid was better. Okay, are you done?
Yes, it's done.
I'm not done
Can
yet.
you please let me allow you to finish, because every speaker must be given a chance to speak. Okay, continue.
I'm only speaking from the knowledge that I have. And can I speak, please? No. So, these allocations that the first perk was speaking about, these percentages that go to funding education, go to defense, is this not made by the parliament? And who is mostly the parliament right now? Black people. How can you say that? How can you say
Sorry,
that?
you're out of order. Can somebody please take his mic from him and can we move on to the next speaker? No, sorry, no. Can I please have him?
speaker.
Yeah,
Chair.
that's a member, definitely.
That is blue. This flag is blue. Where's he going?
Zetu.
Okay.
Zetu. There's people over here.
Who's speaking?
Okay. Who's calling? Okay, Alex, can
Thank
you
you.
continue? Thank you.
Firstly, we will not allow racism to degenerate this conversation. Black people have been told for too long that we have caused the problems that we inherited from settler apartheid colonialism. So what I do want to say is there are many students from 2015 who have sacrificed for this conversation, who have been expelled, who have been jailed, etc. And I do want to give a little shout out to somebody that UCT pays very well. Mr. Stephen Ganger. We will not be intimidated by you, and students will not be intimidated by you, and we will not continue to be surveilled by this university for demanding free decolonized education. If there is a commitment to free decolonized education, then there must be a commitment to stop victimizing and criminalizing students that are doing your job. That are doing your job. So that's what I want to say, and I want to say if this is a university assembly for all of the university, where are the workers? Where are the workers? Because they must work in this job so that their children take up the same job because you don't want to give free decolonized education. We will not stand for that.
All right. We're going to open the next round, but can I ask that everyone who has a mic...
Yeah,
Zetu,
there's questions over here, so look at
Yes.
this side as well.
Right, but I need you to come here so that everyone can, the speakers come to the front because it's easier that way. So can I ask that people with the mics, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 5 mics that are here, to please come to the front, and then when I recognize hands, those hands also come to the front. It's easier so that people can also see and that I'm not noticing people. Is that friendly? All right. I'm going to take 5 more hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those 5 hands, can they please come forward?
Molweni.
Sorry, can you stop? Can we please respect the speakers when they're here in front, and can we please hear them out? Thank you.
Molweni. Igama nguQhawe Bula, and I rise on the matter of free education. And specifically, I want to speak to the debate, if you will, around free education for all versus sort of a free education for the poor only, for black people. Okay, so I shall speak, I guess, on 2 issues. Firstly, that of access, and secondly, that of commodification. And I shall start with that of access, because I believe that the debate around free education is largely around the ability of black bodies to access these institutions of higher education. And I believe that if we do not take a policy that says free education for all, but rather free education for some, or in this case, free education for black people, what we'll find is that whatever model we implement, whether it be a 600,000 threshold, a 1.2 million threshold, whatever model we implement, there will always be people left out. There will always be, if we go for free education for some, there will always be people left out. Whether it's a missing middle, a missing upper, a missing lower, there will always be missing people if we go on the route that only provides free education for some. And I want to highlight, as Umlingane again spoke, that a model which says free education for some largely relies on the existence of privileged bodies in our institutions, which means we can never really redress the inequalities in terms of financial and just societal well-being of people in these institutions. And I think secondly, I want to speak to the commodification of education. in that I believe the primary thing to making education free is the understanding that education is not a commodity. And whether you are rich, poor, or whatever financial standing you are in, that fact does not change. And I say that education is not a commodity because in a modern South African society, education has become a key and a vehicle to individual and societal prosperity. And it cannot be that individual and societal prosperity largely remains out of reach for a lot of people, which is the truth that we have in South Africa. And for that reason, I say we cannot commodify education. And I want to highlight again the importance of why we're here for the University of Cape Town to take a stance on free education. Because we must understand the positionality of UCT as a historically white institution. We must understand that the fight for free education and free-related protests has been happening at exclusively black universities like CPUT, TUT, and Fortes since 1994. But we only stand today with all forms of media coverage because suddenly those protests are within proximity to whiteness and privilege. And once again, if we have a look at the submission that Max Price made last year to the Fee Commission, and then the later fee policy announced by Blade and Zimande a short while later, they're almost a mirror image. And as much as I cannot conform causality, I think indeed we can see an influence or a sway that UCT has. Where again, when UCT calls for president to release the Fee Commission, suddenly there's now an announcement that the Free Commission will be released at a certain point. And again, we see the sway of an institution such as UCT. So I say today that as an institution that primarily is here to produce thinkers, we have to produce and train thinkers. There's a responsibility on this institution to therefore influence thought in this country. And we ought to take a stance for free education for all.
Amanda, Awetu. I'm going to be short and sweet with this one. I just want to address my brother over there. First of all...
There can't be dialogue.
Okay, there's no dialogue. I'm just going to speak then in general.
What do we mean?
Okay. First of all, I want everybody to understand, your students, that the cry for fees or for a decrease in fees is not a racial issue. It's a student issue. And we need to get that into our minds. Whether you're white, black, colored, Indian, pink, blue, red, it's a student issue. My next issue to address before I come off this is that secondly, for the foreigners, wait.
Who's a foreigner?
Wait.
Order.
I am okay. As a fellow African, not from South Africa. Wait, please.
Give up.
I just want to address this issue of the initial payment or the initial deposits. I'm an international student. Let's put it that way. I'm an international student. You can't expect, if there are South Africans or local guys who can't afford, and then you say that a Zimbabwean or a Nigerian who's studying here also can't afford. He can't afford. So if a decrease in fees is going to be applied to the guys from South Africa, it should be applied to the guys from Africa as well. Second, finally to end, this thing with, I was terrorized with this whole initial payment. I wasn't allowed to register because I couldn't afford, or I'd missed the 25,000 by 1,500 rand or something like that. That's nonsense. I'm not here for that. I'm here to study. We have to have some form of debate on this initial payment, which it shouldn't be so high. It's nonsense. It's a barrier to education. It's a barrier to studying here. The fact that we're all here means that you are academically eligible to speak here, and you should be allowed to continue. So please, just to reiterate, the struggle for fees is not a racial issue. Whether you're rich, whether you're poor, it's a student issue. Please, thank you.
Yeah.
Amanda! Amanda! Kawe, tu! Comrades, I'm very appreciative of the speaker who just left here because Ndingusibonise Khayelitsha, the outgoing, or actually should I say former SRC chair for international students. Particularly with this issue at hand, I was the one proposing this to council through the delegates of SRC. However, that said, I'm just here to caution students that I'm very concerned about how genuine management is. Because I remember I was sitting at institutional forum where we wanted to question management on the presence of private security. Who Dr. Price said to us, doesn't even have a PhD. Dr. Price, who said to us, Etta Ferris was the chair. Whatever committee which sits only advises council. He is not obligated in whatever manner to answer to us. That is what he said. Take me to court if I'm wrong. The UCT, I'll tell you why this even assembly is happening. The reason this assembly is happening is because they want to finish their academic year. Because if they don't, white students are going to sue them for breach of contract. That is the only reason why we're having this conversation. So therefore, I'm questioning the genuineness of management. And if so, please take a stance today to shut down school tomorrow and we'll go to parliament together as university.
Slalo, thank you for the second recognition. I think I'm rising. Slal.
Points of order.
Oh.
We're allowed to.
It cannot be that we say this is an open discussion, but every time that there's a person with an opposing view, we shut them out. What this tells us is that these engagements are never inclusive, but are always going to be about what another certain person has to say.
Order. Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Slalo, how is this person recognized?
Raising a point of order.
Points of order.
A point of order. Can you please raise the point of order?
Chair, there are many students here who would also like an opportunity
They
to
never raised
speak.
their hand.
And the fact that she's speaking for the second time is actually unfair. Can I make can you please make a ruling on that? That can you please recognize other students, please?
You must, Slal. Okay,
There's another point of order. Can we hear the counterpoint of order?
Chairperson, I think, Chairperson, I think you are capable to do your job and you don't need anyone to assist you in rolling out your duties as chair. We believe in you. You are chairing this very properly. You recognize the speaker on the floor. No one else raised their hands. She raised her hand. Can we continue? Because we want to hear, we want to educate ourselves so that we can formulate our proper stances. Thank you.
It's not a point of order. So, okay, gauging from the House and what is happening here, Karabo, you are not going to speak right now. I'm going to open up for another speaker. Thank you.
Mandla!
I have made a decision.
Mandla!
I have made a decision as the chair.
High moral! High moral!
Wait. Can everybody, can all people sit down? Can everyone sit down? Like, everyone sit down. Can we please sit down? Karabo. Wait, sorry. Wait, before we carry on, right? When Dr. Price gave a welcome, he said Senate had given us a decision to come have this discussion as an institution, right? So when we're going to take an opportunity to have a discussion and drone it, it's not going to help us. Let us continue in an orderly manner. So over back to you, Speaker.
You're wasting time. Can we please have the next speaker who is not Karabo?
Thank you, students. I applaud Kurabo as the incoming president for the kind of word she gave. No, thank you. No, please protect me. Now, we can't claim that this is the space for everyone, but when someone doesn't agree with you, you shut them down.
You decry exclusion, but then you shut down people. No, please, speaker, chairperson, protect me, please.
It's a students.
Please, do your job.
So we speak as students. We speak as students. We're speaking as students. We're speaking as students. Oh, and then he did that. And then what does the party do? And then what does the party do? And then what does Simon needs to do?
Discipline.
Your hypocrisy.
Hi, morale. Hi. There's a point of order. I'm listening to the point of order.
Chair, as I'm concerned, the SRC has not constituted to choose a president. So how dare he tell us Karabo is incoming president? Where is the democratic process? We have not seen it, we have not observed it. And Karabo, you have no right to fight our chair. It is the chair we have elected to represent us. Well done, chair. Continue.
Thank you so much. Are you okay?
Now, we were asked here today to speak about free education, and as a incoming SRC member, part of the proud banner of DASO, our 9 members, majority of the incoming SRC, I'm going to explain our views, because this is the agenda of the day. DASO is unashamedly not pro-free education for all. The rich must pay. That is a fact. That is a fact. Now, if you want to say free education for all and you talk about inequality, you're going to increase inequality. The rich must pay. That is a proud position of ours. If you are poor or you're part of the missing middle, you must not pay. This university, you can't deny the past of our country, where the rich, where white people have been favored time and time again. If you want to define wealth purely by race, then white people must pay at this university. But the rich must pay. The current SRC, that is our position. We are proud to believe that. And that's why we are the most progressive organization at this university. Thank you.
Mandla. Izwe lethu. EAfrika. Inkululeko. High moral. High discipline. Thank you, Chair, for noting me. I was asked, Chair, that to tell you, you are the chairperson of a larger crowd here, and there are other people who can't see you. So what is happening here in the front is really blocking the real conversation that we are supposed to have. I will allow you to, unless you're no longer noting me, I was noted to speak, and I want to speak. And if you are noting another round, gladly can we follow procedure that you note another round. And also points of orders in such a big space also, it destabilizes the space. So please, Chairperson, as we want to continue to have the conversation. Comrades, there's an interesting thing happening in this country. Part of the interesting thing is that not only, as Prof. Dr. Loaz has said, white people can oppress us, but they can also tell us how to respond to the oppression. What is the language in which we use to that oppression? We have called for free decolonial education for all. Our understanding that there's a relationship that we have with education as black people in this country. And that relationship has been the relationship between the master and the slave. Black people being made into be slaves. Today, we are modern slaves who go to the corporate and work, serving white interest. But for us, the question is deeper. We want to understand what is the orientation of the university. What are the demographics of the university? What is the content of the university? Who's allowed to get in? Who's allowed to stay in and pass and graduate? Who's allowed to get in the middle of their degree? They are excluded in this university. That's what we are speaking about. And when we say free education for the poor, we are unable to account for our history, that in a colonial situation, if you are white, you are rich. And if you are rich, you are white. The consequences is the cause, as Fanon would say. Meaning, those who own wealth, those who own the land, are the rulers and the perpetrators of our system today. And we must never forget that when we speak about the issue of free education. To the university. The university sits proudly as the toppest university in the continent. Nothing about this university is African. Nothing about its orientation, its demographics, its culture takes us where we must resolve secular colonialism in this country. So the call for free education is a call also to unwrestle the power relations that exist in broader society. It is not necessarily just an university issue. The university has a role to play in broader society. So when we speak to the university in taking free decolonial education for all, we don't envisage UCT teaching European ideas in Africa. We want them to teach ideas that speaks to our conditions and also to locate us to the national question and the international question. Because we must contribute to better society as ourselves, but we can't contribute under European education. The last thing, comrade, we want to, because there's a language that says that the state is in power. I mean, if you understand the history of this country, why people are in power. Clean and simple. You can have your government creating policies that are within the constitutional realm, but at the end of the day, those who own the means of productions are the people who are in power. So the call to say who must bill your fees, you're saying we can't meet 0.3 fee increment. We are saying you must find someone who can fit the bill. Rupert must fit the bill. White people in this country must be able, if they're still committed to be in this country, fit the bill for free education for all. Then we rest the issue of models. We rest the issue of who's poor, who's rich. All of us just enter into university. We don't have to worry about fees. Because white people, because they took everything, they will fit the bill. So, moving with proposal of Khayelitsha, as we move tomorrow to go to parliament, can we also move towards companies? ABSA has not paid back the money in this country that's taken in 1994. So as a student in the University of Cape Town, we must also speak to white monopoly capital. To say, once you characterize the country as a problem of corruption, you must also characterize the country as a problem of secular colonialism. So those who have money and power must pay for free education for all. Thank you.
Chair, I'm rising on a point of order. This space is so violent. This space is extremely violent. This space, you can see the people that stand here. I cannot believe that it's 2017 and I stood here and I sat here and a white man was shouting at me like I'm some slave. I'm so sick and tired. I'm so sick and tired that the people that are speaking here are men and they are supposedly fucking educating us. I'm so tired. We always have to be subjected to fucking being silenced. There are people standing here in protest of this very, very chat here. And so how is it happening that men are standing here and shouting at us? I'm so fucking tired. Please see that there is representation in the voices that speak here. This is so violent. Yes.
So I'm going to... No, I'm going to give you a mic now so you can speak about the art exhibition.
Please can you hold this for me? Are you okay talking? Hello, everybody. My name is Kondiswa. I'm a representative from the Student Alliance of FKA Hidding. I'm going to walk around because somebody did tell me, in the session, the problematics of it's the university teaching structure. We're in a seminar, we're in a lecture, and it makes me uncomfortable. So I'm gonna move through the space, yeah. But I'm going to read out our statement, and I hope it's concise enough to be able to share with the people our... No. Yes, no, not, I'm sorry, not you. Okay. Order, high moral, high discipline. Comrades, scholars, aware. Statement from the Student Alliance of FKA Hidden Campus. We declare, this is a shutdown. This is decolonial work in progress. We are instigating a likhotla at Hidden Campus. Hidden Campus intends to operate as a unified body of fine art and theater performance students, inviting any other bodies interested in radical art making towards a social activism. We collectively support the shutdown initiated by students on Upper Campus and have taken it upon ourselves to shut down this campus, FKA Hidding, in solidarity. We demand management convenes an emergency council meeting in which they announce a 0% fee increment for the year 2018, an eradication of historical student debt, and an end to financial barriers for registering students for the year 2018 and beyond. We acknowledge that the university has made strides to engage on student issues regarding economic marginalization, but have found the university to be disingenuous in its engagements, and thus call for full transparency. This demand for transparency is also a demand for full updates and detailed planning regarding issues of Black death at UCT, mental health, queer and transphobic violence, and student accommodation for 2018 and beyond. We appreciate the university for disclosing the amount of 24 million rand spent on private security in the past 2 years, but find the university's priorities concerning, considering that all student debt for 2018 could be cleared with something like 2 million rand. We note the continued presence of this expensive luxury again on our campuses, and as always, demand an immediate call out of paramilitary forces on upper nationwide. We note the continued presence of this expensive luxury again on our campuses, and as always, demand an immediate call out of paramilitary forces on upper and other campuses nationwide. To this end, we pledge solidarity with UFS, CPUT, and any and all other campuses engaged in war against mercenaries. We would like it to be known that if it is the protection of students that is in question, we have full trust in the capabilities of the CPS workers with whom we have long-standing relationships to ensure our safety. Here, it is imperative that we ask the university and the student body, who is the private security here to protect? Would that 24 million rand not be better spent redirected to fund the promotion of workers from pay class 2 to pay class 5 as per their demands? Alternatively, these funds could also be redirected to adding to the current number of insourced workers at UCT. As always, we stand in full solidarity with our mothers and fathers who continue to uphold the struggle of the working class within the walls of UCT/white monopoly capital. We acknowledge the statement issued by the executive in support of the call both for free education and for the release of the Fee Commission report. As an arts campus, however, we challenge the university to find embodied articulations of their support and ask the question, what does it look like for the university to really put pressure on the state? We will move forward as a campus with a decolonial mandate. This mandate is one of radical interdisciplinary art making, centered on questioning and enacting the role of arts in social movements. We state, any artistic work that is in line with the current issues of the university and nation at large is welcomed at the Lekgotla. These works will be engaged with through the frame of a communal, student-led creation of a counter-curriculum, which will run concurrently with our shutdown. This curriculum is aimed at subverting and interrogating the current pedagogical praxis used in institutions of higher learning. We at the Lekgotla fundamentally question the legitimacy of hierarchical and authoritarian structures of pedagogy in which the student is viewed merely as receptacle of knowledge. We would again centralize the learning experience of the student. We are using this moment to contest the assessment practices within arts education. Here we ask, where is the student voice in assessment? In this regard, we hear and echo the call from our fellow Comrades scholars on Upper Campus to review the practices behind duly performed restrictions. As students present at the Lekgotla, we believe that we stand at the precipice of something entirely new. As bodies of agency within institutions of learning, as well as artists situated at this historical juncture of contestation and repositioning, we take up our roles as activating agents within social movements. You can expect to see us, to hear us. We are declaring ourselves visible.
Thank you so much for that. I'm going to note 5 hands again. 1, 2, 3. 4 at the back. It's not all. 4. 5, Cushion. I will can you please come forward? No, the 5. I will next round.
Izwe lethu Africa. I think that we need to have a good discussion on what this space is. Because many comrades have come up here and they have talked about free education for the poor, and they have talked about being the most liberal party on the campus. However, we must remember what this space is. This is a space of whiteness. This is a space in which management can be represented by 3 people and none of them can be of color. This is a space where students with posters of Helen Ziller in their houses can come and have the audacity and disrespect to try and silence Dr. Lushaba. How can a student come and speak to a lecturer, their senior, their leader, and try and silence him? We must remember that in this country, we are lesser when we are black. Being black is a disability. And we must remember that this system, that this institution, once again reinforces the need to become white. Why am I told that I must get a degree so I can get a nice job? What is a nice job? Must I live in a white space? Must I go to a white school? Must I have a white education? I have this white accent. I can see it. I know it. I can hear you saying it. And I don't like this thing. I can tell you now. Me twang like a side, I don't like it. We cannot allow ourselves to be dictated to by white society. When we talk of free education, we must understand that we are not talking about a fee, we are not talking about a bill. We are talking about an end to white dominance in this space. We are talking about an end to the system of colonialism that has perpetuated itself to this very day. We must come together. We must unify. And we must go and tell this institution must unify behind us and say that we no longer represent white dominance. We will no longer allow blacks to suffer. Instead, we will come together and unite as a true South Africa.
Okay, molweni. Mna into endifuna uyitsho yinto bana free education is a collective issue as black students. Asixabana sodwa, siqhwitha-qhwithana sodwa, singqubana sodwa, siyamvuyisa umtyholi. And umtyholi apha nanku. Into endiyithethayo mna yinto bana masibambaneni bethuna. Masibambaneni. Qho xa besibona apha singqubana bayahleka kuba mnandi. Ndiyanicela bethuna masibambaneni. And another thing that I would like to add is that let us not be disturbed by idaso ne-babysitter yabo i-UCT management bethuna. Ndicela yonke into ihlangane sibe munye. And another thing that I would like to add, I'm not sure if I missed it in the list of demands. In 2015, when this struggle began, and last year in 2016 and this year, there were students that were arrested and criminalized. They were charged and then they were expelled. And now that shows in their academic record that they are criminals. It doesn't say that, okay, this person did A, B, C, and D because of student activism. It shows that they are criminals. And we all know who owns imaketi phandle ngabelungu. And now if I go out now with that academic record, ethi mna ndiyi-criminal because of student activism, ndiza progressa njani, andizukwazi. Of which I know, as baye betshilo no Dr. Lochab ukuba that is one of the issues yoba phandle apha sikontrolwa ngabelungu. Kodwa ke into endifuna uyithetha ku list of demands, can that also be addressed bethuna?
into yoba mayisuswe. If ever une-academic record enjalo because of student activism, ndicela bethuna isuswe. Bethuna masingavumeneni umtyholi asoyise, masibambaneni, enkosi. Speaker number 3.
A few people already seem quite opinionated about what I'm going to say before I've even said anything. It makes it difficult for maybe not even me, for anyone who has to come up here and represent you guys. Because the only reason we are having this meeting is for us to come together and decide on one thing. And so even amongst the people in the front here, we are trying to do something, we are trying to make a difference, but we fight with each other. Now it's hard for me to speak. You can hear my voice trembling. Yeah?
Order.
And to get things right is a very difficult thing, and we have some people who mention their struggles, and before they can even speak about their struggles, they are not listened to. That is the hardship in having a struggle, that you feel like no one is listening to you. Yet some people already are positively responding, and there's some people just shouting and having an opinion. I implore you to approach me directly. I've spoken to many of the leaders here today, and they say that's the problem. Some people attack their views without listening to them or coming to them and speaking to them directly. So if I have to say anything today, if we leave here without coming to an agreement on one thing, we have lost. We never have to agree on everything. We are not going to fix every single problem we have with this meeting today. But the point is to bring people together, get them on the same team so we can go have meetings and solve the problem. The groups that are meeting and trying to solve the problem, they have very few people. In the one meeting about the fees, there was one white person in there. Now, it's very easy for me as a white person to say, have a comment, but if I'm not there, I cannot comment. If we only have 8 or 9 people in those meetings, we cannot comment on that and feel so strongly opinionated about how good or how bad something is if we aren't there to get involved with it. Now, I am very guilty of that. But let's change that. Let's not have 15 people sitting in one room once a week trying to make a plan for all of us. I think each and every one of us have to realize that we are the leaders of today. And it's a responsibility we have to accept now. We need to stop pointing fingers at whoever. Stop pointing fingers at someone and say, it is my turn to do that. To all the leaders here, I respect you very much. But let's forget the people who are in power doing this and that. Educate ourselves. There's a library. Let's go get books. Let's educate ourselves and let's take charge today. Here we go. I think before I leave, okay, you say my time is up, but are we in a rush? Are we in a massive rush? If there's a time limit on this for everyone, then we can rush. Everyone's been rushing to finish up. I want to know, are the speakers going to be taken away? Because I will stay until it's dark so we can come to a decision.
Thank you. Wow, thank you for not acknowledging me as your chair, but okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
I think there's only one or two more.
Hello. Hello, and my name is Kirshen, and thank you for your time and attention to listen to me for a few moments. But I also wanted to say thank you first for your energy and labor that you are in some way trying to commit to something. And in that sense, a kind of welcome to a moment of trying to learn something. So I just want to ask, can you hear me? Right? Right, thank you. And then the question is for, can you hear me and can you listen to what I'm saying? I'm going to speak for myself, but the task is for us to hear each other and really listen to what each other is saying. It is not an easily done thing. You can spend your life trying to find a relationship or a friendship with a person, and you can then maybe say you've spent a life well if you've made a friendship with a person. So I was sitting there, and a sister is falling into the water. The women are walking around and protesting, but not just walking, they are being dragged around by the violence that shackles them, right? So can you hear that? Can you listen to that? What I'm saying is not going to be an easily politically grandstanding thing. That's not its purpose, that's not its use. Its purpose and use is for us as a student and for us as students to think. So my invitation is, can you think? And it is a challenge. So who speaks for the wood? That's my question. Who speaks for the wood? These trees that are around us. This is not white environmentalism, right? Who speaks for the wood? Who speaks for the water that received the woman's body? Who speaks for the land that receives the blood and the ancestors and the slaves that are there under Kramer Colony and that are there in Prestridge Memorial? Who speaks for them and who can hear the ancestors? You think we are so charged just because it's two people versing each other. It is not. If you can see beyond that, what ancestors and ancestries are alive in that moment. It is about narratives being overturned. So when you speak and you are so defensive of your colonial history, this is not about white and black once again. I'm going to dare you to think. Can you hear me? When we talk about white and black, I talk from the position of Biko when he says, black is about a relationship to power and it is about oppression. Black, Indian, African, and colored were created. As James Baldwin says, I am not a Negro, I am a man. You who created Negroes, there's a problem with you. You came, your ancestors, my ancestors, neither of them wanted to come here. And we who have become white and black. So please take that for something as an invitation to extend into your own being, that if you are born white or if you are born black, that you do not have to die in that way. It is more difficult for whites to not die white because the current power relationship of the world will keep you white. But if you are in that position, it is your task to redistribute that power and share the stage. What is happening now is a moment of black pain as black reason. That is the challenge. Previous speakers have said. Black pain is not conceptualized in the colonial establishment as reason. It is accused of unreason. But I'm asking you to think, can you hear why people are seeing each other and listening to the water? Can you hear the wood? The wood understands black articulation and black pain. Black pain is reason. If you cannot understand it in this moment, it is not a shortcoming of the black body or the black life. It is a shortcoming of you. You have to learn, and you have to unlearn. This has been my process of life, that I continuously have to unlearn and learn and act against erasure. Being profiled on this campus and victimized when some people feel that I look more queer, or I look more gay, or I look more Indian, or whatever, then they think they can police my gender. Bitches, it's not going anywhere, you know? It's not changing, neither do I need it to change. I love being gay because gayness is such a critical thinking space. It is such a blackness. It is such a blackness that straights have to take 20 years to learn a thing that I've had to learn in my whole life, right? So I'm inviting you to think in that way. Blackness, black pain, gayness, Dalit pain. If you know what a Dalit is, great. If you don't know, welcome to the learning experience, right? So I was at the Faculty of Health Sciences for the last month and learned very quickly that that is the Faculty of Death Sciences. I have been at the Faculty of Science, at the Faculty of Arts, and are now at African Studies in a space of home and spirit and living ancestors. There's a space of dignity where we can make a project. I want to ask us how ironic it is, this is a student call as well, for those who are against the idea of free decolonial education. Why? Because, hear me out, why do you seek to pay for your own erasure? I don't understand why we need to pay lecturers and management who have at this time, we have admitted, black pain has articulated their inadequacy. They continue to steal our thoughts from our political moments. They continue to steal my data. Elena Moore from the sociology department in my master's tries to make the data plantation out of black narratives. We are not data plantation. Black narratives are not for sale. I am not for sale, and I will not bow. Yeah? So, the exploitation of the black lives happens as data, we are being made into data commodities. The researchers who make income generating schemes for themselves, we are being asked to pay this. We want to pay those who said, we want to pay, the rich must pay. Okay, but you are also being paid to erase yourself. You are wanting to pay to erase yourself. Who are we wanting to pay? We are coming here for a number of years to pay to be erased. The credentialing system which is now operating, not a university education system, it's a credentialing system. You are paying for a credential, but you are also paying your life. Give us your history, give us your language, give us your culture, give us your love. Give us your ability to be intimate and be a human. You came in as a human and you leave as a credential. Give us all you have and we will give you the fruits of modern education, which we call a credential, which you can use to apply for your job in a CV in black and white. But you are not on that page. All of us. Thank you. I'm being mindful. Thank you for your agitations around my shoulder. I know I make people very uncomfortable and I love it because they're scared of me, right? Thank you so much. Okay, so my question is, can you step out of your role of agitation? There is no time for me, but there has been much time for you, and your space of smiling, which protects you as armor, is not going to do anything to me. My question is to all of us, please, I dare you to come and try and touch my body, because if you think you have a right to touch my body, anyone, come for me, bitches. So this is the task. So this is our task. This is all of us. This is all of us. This is all of us. I dare you to think you have a right to come into my mind. This is for all of us. Black and white are concepts that have been created. A black narrative is teaching, it is articulating right now. My question is to all of us, when will you say enough is enough? When will you say that's enough and reach for your weapons, whatever they might be? When will you reach for your abilities to think for yourself, with each other, and say humanness is our substance, and it is not negotiable? You are in a moment where black lives and living are teaching. And so for the first time, we can tell you, welcome to the world. Welcome to humanity. If we cannot say this, then we know we are on the task and the pilgrimage of learning. And this is a life of learning. Management lecturers who can earn a living of our death, especially black death, is what we are pointing towards. And also white death. If you're coming in as white or black or whatever, the system that is asking for your life to pay salaries that exist, they're profiteering of our lives. So in that example of data plantations being used as research, we are the raw commodities now that if we do not exist, management, lecturers, those who actually don't care for us, regardless of the workers who do care for us and show us care, are earning profits of our lives. So we are, in our South African history, in the mining sector, so who does the mining, who takes out the gold, and who adds value and profits from it? Are we absolutely fucking raw commodities that they profit from us like that? You all are susceptible to that, because if it wasn't for us coming through the system, they wouldn't be receiving their profits. So that is why I say my point is about a free decolonial education, because all of you come in here to be colonized. It is an institutionalizing mechanism. We are at the moment where black pain has shown reason to say we need to look to our humanity. If you can't see that, then welcome to the project of learning, and stop killing each other. Firstly, stop killing yourself. Thank you. Madam Chair, thank you. And thank you again for your time and your spirit, and to all of us that are unseen in this moment, the living and the dead and all our relations. Thank you.
Izwe lethu iAfrika ingululeko. So I've been told that I rap when I speak. So I'll try to be slow, but in case I do rap, just indicate to me, like, just tell me, like, you just give me a signal. There are a few things that I wanted to address, but let's first start with the practicality. I want to address this notion of education for the poor as propagated by incoming SRC. Before I address that particular point, if in the definition that you're a student representative, I do believe that that means then you have to propagate what the majority mandated to do. Currently, as we speak here, we're having a University Assembly for free education. You come here and say that DASO unashamedly does not believe in free education for the poor. You see their reaction, and yet there you are purporting to be representing us. That is the first point of exclusion, and that we should acknowledge, that the people whom we have in level 7 are not representing us, but rather those that mandate them, and which happen to be those that control the means of production. So after this meeting, and perhaps during the course of this shout and in the course of this protest, we should reconsider, like we did on the 15th of September, them being in that office. Okay, so now let me go to this policy for free education for the poor. So this is how it works. It is proposed that we have a threshold of what it means to be poor. Let's take the threshold to be 122K gross income. So that means if your mom is a teacher, she earns a gross, that means before only deductions, 10,000 a month. She's technically then in the middle class. And the policy on a subsidy goes up to 600. Currently at UCT, and this is the thing that baffles me, right? If this was a policy that works, currently UCT we've got something called gap funding, which is exactly a copy and paste of the DASO policy. And yet how many times do we speak of financial exclusion? Which then ought to tell you that if you apply a little bit of common sense, not that much, just a little bit, the policy of free education for the poor does not work. Because we've got a pseudo example right here at home where your base is, and it does not work. But then again, we do not care because white people are not excluded. It is black people that are financially excluded. Hence, I disagree with the point that this thing of free education is a student issue. It is not a student issue. It is a racial issue. Let me go on further than that. We also need to ask then, who is the poor? And what does it mean to be poor? Are you poor when you have reached? Are you poor when you are below a certain threshold? Are you rich when you are at a certain threshold? So are you rich when you're at 600,000? There's an illusion that we are. My first problem with this thing of poor and rich divide is that it ignores generational debt. It ignores structural oppression. The fact that you are, as Nokolo, the moment when I graduate out of it, I may get into a job that pays me $1 million, but the moment that in my first paycheck is not mine, but rather it's for my family home, my mother's dependents, her dependents, and those whomever that she was supporting. This is what you call black tax. This is something that this policy on the poor does not take into account. Furthermore, I want us to just define properly what it means to be poor. To be poor means to be systematically disadvantaged and structurally disadvantaged. And what does it mean to be rich? To earn $1 million, you are not being rich. There's an illusion that black people, like let's talk about the black middle class. There's an illusion that those people are rich. They are not. Those people are in debt. They are given the illusion that they own something. They do not own your things. That Ferrari, that house, you do not own it. The bank owns it. The bank owns your car. And the moment that you get retrenched, or the moment that anything happens to you, the bank will say, well, remember that thing? It was mine to begin with. I'm taking it back with all interest. So then I want us then to go to a definition of what it means to be wealthy. Also, I disagree with the fact that as Opelamlo does, Opelamlo. Oh, there we go. What's your name? Okay, sure. I disagree with the fact that white people are rich. White people are not rich. White people are wealthy. They are not rich. I'll tell you who are those white people that are rich. Those white people that are rich are those white people whom during the times of apartheid never thought that apartheid is never going to end. So by Mali and never saved it up in a trust fund. What it means to be wealthy, right? What it means to be wealthy, it means that you've got income generating assets. It means that you own your house. And by you own a house, you own your house. It means that you have something on offer, you've got what you call an estate. Something that can be transferred. It means that you have shares in the company. That your business doesn't depend on your bodily laboring. That if you get better a motor, your company will still continue to produce. That is what it means to be wealthy. Black people are not wealthy, right? But now we have this illusion that they are. Hence then we propagate this policy of this white and rich. Now, let me tell you what the white definition of rich is. The white definition of rich is those black people whom we have allowed to have a cake of the national slice. at our terms. That's what needs to be reached. Oh, okay, what's the demand, baby? But now I just want to say one final point. There's this other thing then, which is being proposed, right? And I beg the House to just follow me here. Das is actually coming with a very progressive policy when it says that white people should pay. I think this is something that we need to test and broaden up. It must speak to the structural disadvantage because there's a direct causal relationship between the disempowerment of black people and caused by white people, right? So when you say white people should pay, I would like to open this up further. Then are you talking about white tax, for example, whereby indeed then free education is for the black, and then all white people foot the bill as was always suggested. If that's what being said, then we're not talking about culture, like proper and structural regress. And this is the other logic that we fail to appreciate. Why this thing of free education doesn't make sense to many people is because we didn't take first the economy and the means of production. Had we taken the land back and those farms and those dams, by the way, South Africa has 5,000 dams, 300 are owned by the government, 4,700 are owned by white people. And we're now in a water crisis, ne? But okay, sharp. So had we taken back those dams, and those other things that generate income for this country, we will not be where we are right today. So, to the other person that said, we've got a black parliament. Yes, we do have a black parliament, theoretically, on terms, but we've got a white economy. So, I will give it up here. One last thing, man. You say, I'm sure Blingan has said this thing. UCT and the Free Education Planning Group. That thing is a joke.
There's a saying management to say that we need to close. So I'm going to gauge from the House and see if we can have one last round, a final round. Is it friendly with the House to have a final round? All right, so I'm gonna recognize 1, 2, 3, 4. Anyone at the back? 5. Time as well. I'm going to time you and give you 2 minutes.
Okay, hello everyone. I don't want to waste people's time, so I'm going to be quick with what I have to say. I've been listening to what the DA had to say, because let me just start off by saying 2 things. I'd like to apologize for not having brought receipts or facts or stats for what I'm about to say. I wasn't ready to speak on this day, but I'm sure enough people here will know what I'm talking about to know that what I'm saying is the truth. And the second thing is, in my opinion, student organization is the same thing as political party. So when I say the DA, I mean DASO, but it's the same thing, because clearly the things they say here are the things that their people in parliament will say. We know this to be true. I'm going to present, I'm not sure it's a very controversial opinion, but I'd like to believe that this is something that most people have realized. I think that this policy that DASO is bringing is actually a perpetuation of whiteness. Because their policy is that the rich must pay, right? Or white must pay. But something that you don't realize about this is, if you look at, say, for example, NSFA's funding, I'm sure a lot of people can tell you that when they say to you that you need to be within a certain, like you have to have a certain income every year, there are people, we don't know for a fact that everyone who writes that they have a certain income is true. I can give you a personal fact. I know this for a fact. I know someone who owns a business. They're making millions, their business is making profits. This person went and wrote in their child's application for university that they do not have a job. Their company is a CC or something, so it's technically that company is like its own thing, something of that nature. But basically what I'm trying to say is, people do these things where they will come and they'll say, oh no, I don't actually have enough money to pay. That takes away money. People are lying and taking away money from people who actually can't afford. My question is, how is DASO going to actually know that's true if their plan goes through? Now we're giving money to people who shouldn't have it because they want to lie. And I say the reason why it perpetuates whiteness is the people who know these things are the ones who already have money. Those business owners, these white guys who are already rich, they're the ones who know these things. Poor black people do not know about these things. So what I'm trying to say is I want people to understand that this plan of DASO's it's not a bad plan, it's a terrible plan. It's honestly the worst idea you could have, because it's going to cost you more money, and that money is not going to even go to the people you think it's supposed to go to. It's going to go to people who are already rich. Now they take that money that they saved because they lied about how much, they're going to go buy their child a car. They're going to go hire the child like an apartment in Claremont. On your money, on your poor black money. Just remember that. And that's all I'd like to say. I just want us to think that before anyone says anything.
Riperile, Vitramina, Minansoba Shandlale, outgoing Treasurer General of the UCT SRC and incoming Chairperson of the Commerce Student Council. Firstly, I'd like to address our supposed incoming SRC. For people that form part of a student structure called the Democratic Alliance, you clearly do not understand democratic processes because you haven't constituted and you're not an SRC, you're a TOS team. That's the first point of departure. Secondly, I concur very strongly the points raised by Comrades Koala, Koala, and all the other people, Alex and me, everyone that has spoken, right? But again, I want to go back to the disingenuousness of UCT management. If you look at the Sharpeville agreement that was signed last year, right? The spirit of that agreement acknowledges that the problems that have led to student protests are not an individual problem, but a collective problem, right? i.e., it is structural violence. The institution then commits in the agreement, right, to garnering a spirit of reconciliation, a spirit of growth, of coming back together, of change together. But on Friday, we sat with them in a Senate meeting while they were processing an interdict against us. So I would like to ask each and every one of you, what does that mean? What does that mean? UCT does not take us seriously, right? The president right now, leadership, right? The president right now is being intimidated by UCT management. And we're here doing theatrics, performing, because as black people, we have to perform our pain. Here you go, performance. Right? We have to do that all the time. So what I'm asking is that, why are we still in engagement with UCT management, who have militarized the campus again, right? Private security is a trigger for people. People almost died last year in Steve Biko. But again, you bring them here, right? You bring them here once again. We have said to you, reverse the interdict. We have said to you, do not militarize our campus. But in a time where you are claiming to garner a spirit of reconciliation and spirit of coming together, you then go and militarize this campus. We are not the ones asking for trouble, you are. You are the ones asking for trouble and not us. And I am sick and tired of sitting in long meetings with management that are just essentially fishing sessions. Fishing sessions of what we'll do. It's disingenuous. And I say nothing in this institution can continue to be normal while the institution is militarized, while student activists are being victimized. There's people with indefinite interdicts. What does that mean? Are you garnering a spirit of reconciliation or are you not? Make a decision and make it quick.
Thank you, and I'd like to greet you all. Firstly, I would just like to clarify some misconstrued points that were leveled against DASO. Okay. The first point is, and I would like, and this is part of the thing that the campaign that the SRC will be engaging in, giving people institutional education. Because for the latter speaker who just spoke now, the term of the SRC officially starts today. So we would like people to be acquainted with their constitution and understand what it entails and the provisions that are in it. The mandate of the SRC starts today, and the DASO-led SRC has started its work. Now, on the point of free education, being a person who myself have been on financial aid, particularly NSFAS,
I'm not one to say that a poor black person must be excluded out of the university on the basis of financial need. However, we need to be practical in our thinking. And one of the things that I want to bring to your attention, having listened closely to the Minister of Finance speech, is that South Africa has a 50.8 billion rand shortfall. We have an increase in national debt, which is about 54.2% to GDP. Now, believing in free education is not wrong. It's something that in an ideal world we'd want to achieve. However, our proposal is that what we shouldn't suspend is free education for the poor now. That's what we are saying, and we don't want to suspend that. So, in wrapping up, I would like to appeal to all those students who have been alienated as a result of people who do not want to hear the views of others, that the upcoming SRC is going to have similar platforms such as this one, and we to give voice to the voiceless, and we are going to ensure that every student is heard and every student is not left behind. Thank you.
Dr. Price, tomorrow we going to Parliament or not? Please answer this one.
Start again.
Dr. Price, I would like to know that if tomorrow, as UCT, not just students, all UCT workers, management, everybody that has an access card of UCT, are we going to Parliament or not? Yes, can you please go in that closing, can you respond to that? The last person.
Amanda, qina mfundi qina, qina mfundi qina, skabahemisa, skabafachats, skabahemisa, skabafachats. Yeah, thank you. No, I'll be very brief. Of course, many people have come up and spoken, particularly on the issues of free education for the poor, free education for all, really engaging the overarching issue on this question. But now I want to specifically touch, on some of the internal things that are happening currently at UCT. This morning I received a phone call that at the Faculty of Health Sciences, currently, as we speak, there are 24 students who are not being allowed to graduate simply because they owe the university money. So when I speak of the internal issues, those are the things that I'm speaking about. When I speak of internal issues, I'm speaking of a possibility of a students here amongst this crowd, potentially next year when you want to come back, not because you are ineligible academically, not because you are failing, but simply because you don't have the financial means, you will receive that email that says you are not able to register. So that's what I'm talking about when I want to speak to the internal things. Also, when I speak to the internal things, comrades, I'm speaking about the increment in particular. The university must be able to commit to us, the university must be able to commit to the students that there is no students who will be financially excluded next year, in the year of 2018. Of course, Dr. Maximum Price stood here and said, he himself, he says he believes in the principle of free education. In fact, that is the message that he always says throughout his emails. He says the UCT believes in the principle of free education. Now, the question we must then ask is, how can you say you believe in the principle of free education, but there are students that you'll exclude simply because they lack the financial means? How can it be that there are students at FHS who have gone through 7 years or even 8 years in the institution, and now as they are waiting to graduate, as they are waiting to get their transcript, they are reminded that you owe the university money? So I think if there's anything that we must resolve on in this sitting, we understand many different views around the question of free education and models, but at least I'm very happy were able to sit here and engage on the issue. But if there's one thing that we must agree on, is that there must be no increment for the year 2018. Secondly, there must be no student who is financially excluded for the year of 2018. And then lastly, our comrades in FHS, there must be no one who is not given a transcript. There must be no one who, after passing, you know how tough it is to pass a course at the institution. After passing, there must be no one who is barred access to graduation on the basis that they don't have the financial means. So I think if we can get a consensus from this house here, do we all agree that there must be no one who must be financially excluded in the institution? Comrades, I'm not hearing the consensus. Do we all agree that if there are people, not because they are academically eligible, not because they are failing, but simply because they lack the financial means, no one must be excluded on that basis in the University of Cape Town? Do we also agree, understanding what an 8% increment would mean, understanding what a 10% increment would mean, do we also agree that there must be as a matter of principle, and I think we would also send a very loud message to the government, Dr. McPrice, because we understand that the government also wants, it is not only you who want this institution to run. I think you'd send a very loud message to the government if this institution were to declare a 0% increment as a matter of principle for the year of 2018. Do we agree on that principle, comrades? Amanda! Thank you, Chairperson.
I'm going to call the Vice Chair. Thank you so much. Can you hear me? I'm going to call... I'm going to call Dr. Max Price to come forward. I'm going to hand over the demands. He's going to answer a few questions that were asked, including the one about Parliament and with the way forward. So... So he's receiving the demands. If we do not hear back from management, we have witnesses that management has taken our demands and they have not responded to us as students.
Hello? All right, first let me wrap this up by saying thank you to you for coming and thank you for staying as late as you have. I think it is, as I said, the first purpose of this assembly is to say we've been waiting a long time for a policy solution to funding higher education, and the purpose of this large assembly is to give greater urgency to that, to say we have to get a solution from government, we have to help create a solution to the funding of higher education. Secondly, a specific question was asked about a march to Parliament. And the context for us running the university, and I believe for you, is that no one can afford to miss any classes. We have to get the exams completed. If you want to miss a class, if you want to go to Parliament, of course it is your right to do so, but we will not shut the university in order to go to Parliament. The university must continue, and I believe that it is in the interests of most of you, because this is a critical time for revision. This is a time for consolidation of a year's work. This is a time to ensure that you get the best possible marks. No purpose is served for you individually or collectively by putting your exams at risk this year. So we will not shut the university, but of course anyone who wants to go to Parliament can go, although I must also emphasize that the DP requirements remain, and you need to know this. When we talk about free education, when we talk about no one being financially excluded, you do not want to graduate from a university where the employers say there is no quality here. I want to thirdly say that our commitment to free education that you've heard me say, the principle is that if the economy is good and strong, if we can afford free education for everyone, that is an ideal to aspire to. But there are short-term and long-term issues. The long-term issues we have time to deal with. The short-term issues are about now and next year. We are not going to get suddenly a change overnight in the funding of higher education that is going to make it free. What we can do, and what we can do at UCT, is to make sure that no one is excluded because they cannot afford the fees. That is a commitment, and when we have a really excellent team that when we find individuals, if individuals come forward who appear to have been excluded or are being excluded, we look at those cases, we try to understand them, and I agree that there are some cases. For example, at the moment, we do not have financial aid for international students. I'm sorry that that's the case, but it is the case. We have limited financial aid for postgraduate students. At the moment, the system is aimed at that we can afford, or that the country is affording, currently is aimed at undergraduate students. Now, we're trying to change that. We need to work together on that. We need to have unity on that. And one of the things that comes across clearly to me from this meeting, and it's my last word, is that a university is a place with many different views, and that's a healthy thing. That's a good thing. We expect that. It doesn't surprise me that we have some speakers saying that there should be free education only for black students and white students should pay, or white families should pay. Others saying that it should be free for the poor, black or white. Others saying that it should be free for everyone, rich and poor. These are not easy issues, but I think we have the mechanism to engage on them and to address them and to shape the national policy. And I thank you all for contributing to that debate. I think you should all give yourselves a round of applause for being here. Thank you. Okay, there was a question about private security which they say I haven't answered.
Can we please respect the speaker and we allow...
The question was, why is there private security, or what do we need? We are committed to keeping the university open and to having exams proceed, and we're committed to avoiding disruption. If there is no disruption, if you make a commitment to no disruption, there will be no private security. Private security is only here if we feel that buildings, people are at risk. I very much regret that we have private security. I regret that we have to spend any money on them. They are only here to look after everyone's safety.